Greetings everyone, Eric Brown, MOBO-Media. Hey, I want to give some tips on what happens if you're cruising and you find yourself in predicaments that you hadn't planned on. So a couple of them I'm going to talk about. It's no different than when you travel on an aircraft, but some are unique. So the first one I'm going to talk about is what happens if you go on a cruise, your bags, and you've flown to the embarkation, the place where you're supposed to get on the cruise, and your bags are lost. It happened to me. So we was headed to a 7-day cruise and my bags were lost. So when I got to the airport, when we landed at the location to get on the cruise ship, when I went to get my bags, no bags. I went to the airline folks and they said, yep, they were a little lost, and they'd find them and try to get them to me. So I went on a cruise ship with no clothes. And the good thing about it is near the cruise port, they had like T-shirts. I could get T-shirts, things like that. And on the ship, if you ever find yourself on a ship and this happens to you, the staff at the front desk has free T-shirts. They have free T-shirts. They have, I think, free shorts or whatever, whatever you need to get by. So just be mindful of that. They have some things at the front desk, toothbrushes, all that good stuff in case of emergencies. So with me, when my bags were lost, I was in Thailand, man. Landed in Thailand, no bags. So I got on a cruise ship in Thailand and constantly in contact with these folks about my bag, but the problem was with the Wi-Fi. Wi-Fi was horrible out there. So trying to contact international, airline folks about lost bags, man, something they deal with all the time, is not new to them. It was hell. But the cruise folks, and be mindful of this, the cruise ships, when you're headed to these cruises, especially like international cruises, it's like one package, and the cruise lines oftentimes will offer you one free ticket and one paid ticket, something like that. Keep in mind, they feel like they have responsibility for you for that whole trip. And so that's why they have things like T-shirts and toothbrush and things like that at the front desk you need just to get by. But the other thing they do is they do a damn good job of tracking down your bag. Yes, the cruise lines. Yes, they have folks that work directly with the airlines to try to locate those bags, and they do a damn good job of it. Because here's the deal. If the cruise lines are smart, they know that if you don't get your bags, man, you're not going to have a good time in the cruise ship. You ain't going to spend no money. I'm going to be honest with you. Because I know with me, I'm sitting there, I was like stewing for like 2 days with no clothes, man. I'm like, man, this is crazy. I didn't want to drink. I didn't want to eat the nice restaurant. Hell, I didn't have clothes to eat at nice restaurants. It was just crazy. But the cruise lines worked very hard to try to get my bags. And they finally sent someone to my room to let them know, hey, we did locate the bags. And so what they do, the airlines do, they'll put them on another airplane that will meet you at a future destination. For example, we ended up going from Thailand, I think, we ended up heading to Singapore, one of many stops. So my bags actually met me in Singapore. So when I got off the cruise ship, there was some confusion. Because I got off the cruise ship and I went to the airport because they said my bags were there. Well, when I went to the airport, what I found out was that my bags were not there. Because guess what? The cruise lines had already taken care of that. Someone had already picked it up in a van. It was in transit to the cruise ship. So I didn't have to worry about that. No one ever told me that. I just didn't know. It was lesson learned. So they do a damn good job of locating your bags if you ever get stuck. And again, at the front desk, they have some things to help you get by. But always remember, at the cruise ports, if you do run in a situation like that, you got stores to sell about everything, clothes. And you get, hell, you're on a cruise ship, I was wearing some weird shit, but it was cool. It wasn't crazy, but it was just like, I ain't give a damn, man, you know what I'm saying? But it was cool. And, but yeah, everything ended up working okay. I got my bags, and cruise lines were very apologetic. And I think I may have even got a credit or something for the $50 credit, something like that, for the hassle. The other thing I want to talk about is very important. This one is very important. If you're on a cruise ship, you're in another country somewhere, and you miss the ship. So let's say the ship goes to, for example, Cozumel, right? You get off the ship and they tell you, well, you got 6 hours in Cozumel. Be back at the ship at 5 o'clock. You come back to the ship at 5:10. The ship's sailing. They're not gonna hold that ship for you. They're not gonna hold the ship for you. Here's where it gets tricky. Hopefully you got your passport with you, because if you don't, you're gonna have a hell of a time trying to travel to another country or travel to a country ahead to meet the ship. Because a lot of these countries require passport. They require passport to get on airlines. And so your best bet is going to try to work with the embassy When I get off of these cruise ports, I always take my passport. As a minimum, I always take a copy of my passport. Even though a copy of the passport is not the real thing, it goes a long way in, trying to verify who you are. The embassy folks they'll work with you, but man, if you miss your cruise ship, that's going to cost you a lot of money because you're going to have to figure out where the airline is first to get to the next destination. You might have to travel 2 hours to get to an airport. And then wherever the next cruise port is, where the ship is going, let's say the airport flies you in there, but that airport may be 3 hours away from the cruise port. So you still got to travel another 3 hours. So you're going to have to buy taxi fees to get to these airports. You're going to have to you're going to have to pay for airline fees. And you're going to have to pay for, just food that you've already paid for on the cruise ship. You know what I'm saying? Drinks, because you're going to have to eat in the middle of all this stuff. And so you can find yourself in a conundrum. The golden rule of thumb for us is to always be back at the cruise ship, no matter what. 1 hour before the time they say they're going to depart, no matter what. 1 hour before. And if we're cutting it close or something with a excursion or a trip or something, we just don't do it. Stay on the ship. But be mindful if you run into that, because that can cause you a lot of headache, man, being left. And so I've seen it, and it's not a fun thing. I've seen parents who have left their children on cruise ships, who have gotten off the cruise ship, saw it for myself. They got their ass drunk as hell and they missed the cruise ship. And now their children are on the cruise ship by themselves. So they got to call the cruise lines and have someone go down there and check on the kids, make sure they're okay, while the damn parents try to make their way back to the cruise ship. Just don't find yourself in this situation, and you save yourself a lot of headache. But there are ways around it. I mean, you're just going to have to, depending on where you are, you're going to have to make your way toward that cruise ship, or back to home port. It's up to you, depending on how much hassle you want to deal with. But don't get caught in a situation where you miss the cruise ships. So those are really two things I want to touch on, as far as the cruise ships, and your lost luggage. And if that happens, don't worry, because like I said, the cruise lines, they do a damn good job of locating your luggage. Because to them, if they don't locate your luggage, you're not going to have a good time on the ship. You're not going to spend money. You're not going to want to be on the damn ship. I know for me, those 2 days, all I could think about was, man, I can't wait to get my bag, to feel like me again, or to actually implement the plans I had. On certain days, I had certain things I wanted to wear, like the white party and, going out by the swimming pool or going to the gym. I had nothing, man, nothing but the clothes I flew in on. But it was all good. It worked out. And like I said, I looked weird for a minute there, but hey, it was better than nothing. With that, this is Eric Brown. Thought I'd give you a couple of cruise tips. Stay safe and happy cruising. Y'all take care. Bye-bye.